The lights of America's Got Talent stage shimmered brighter than the stars that night. The audience buzzed with excitement, the judges' panel gleamed beneath the spotlights, and anticipation filled the air like electricity. But no one expected that the next contestant, a quiet, skinny boy from the Philippines, would bring the entire theater to tears. The camera panned toward the stage entrance. A boy no older than 14 stepped forward. His jeans were worn, his shoes a little too big, his shirt neatly ironed but clearly secondhand. He held a small cloth bag in one hand, the kind used for carrying small tools. The audience murmured, curious. Simon Cowell glanced at his notes. "Who's next?" he asked. The floor manager whispered, "A contestant named Arvin from the Philippines." As the boy reached the microphone, the theater grew silent. He smiled nervously, his voice trembling slightly as he said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Arvin. I'm from a small town in the Philippines." "Hi, Arvin," Sofia Vergara greeted warmly. "How old are you?" "I'm 14, he replied softly. "What are you going to do for us today?" asked Heidi Klum. "I will sing," he said, his hands shaking just enough to make the microphone wobble. Simon leaned forward. "Okay, Arvin, tell us a little bit about yourself." The boy took a deep breath. "Back home, I live with my mother and my little sister. My father passed away 2 years ago. I help my mom by selling small tools on the street. Screwdrivers, hammers, things like that. Sometimes, when people don't buy, I sing while waiting for customers. It helps me forget that we are poor." A hush swept across the judges' table. Howie Mandel's eyes softened. "Wow," he said quietly. Simon looked at him thoughtfully. "That's really touching. What made you come all the way here?" Arvin smiled faintly. "A man who visited my town heard me singing on the street. He recorded it on his phone and posted it online. Then one day, someone from AGT called. I thought it was a joke. But, here I am." The audience chuckled softly, touched by his humility. Simon nodded. "All right, Arvin, we can't wait to hear you sing. The stage is yours." The boy nodded and stepped back slightly. The music began, soft piano chords filling the air. He closed his eyes, clutched the microphone with both hands, and took a deep breath. When he began to sing, the room fell silent. His voice was gentle but powerful, full of pain and purity that made hearts tremble. It wasn't just a song, it was his story. Every note carried the weight of struggle, love, and hope. The lyrics spoke of a dreamer who worked under the sun, selling tools to strangers, yet never stopped believing that one day, his voice would rise above the noise of the streets. People began to cry. In the front row, a woman clasped her hands to her chest, whispering, "Oh my God." Sofia covered her mouth. "He's incredible," she whispered to Heidi. The camera zoomed in on Simon's face. For once, the critic's expression softened into something rarely seen, admiration mixed with emotion. When Arvin hit the chorus, his voice soared. The lights glowed golden, the orchestra swelled, and it felt like time had stopped. He wasn't a poor boy anymore. He was a star. The song ended with a trembling whisper. "And I'll keep singing, until the world hears me." For a few seconds, no one moved. Then, suddenly, the entire theater erupted into a standing ovation. The crowd roared, people cheered, clapped, and wiped away tears. Simon stood up slowly, shaking his head in disbelief. "Arvin," he said, his voice softer than usual, "you have no idea what you just did. That was magic." Sofia's eyes glistened. "Your voice, it comes from the heart. You made us feel everything you've lived through." Heidi nodded. "I could listen to you sing all day. You're so pure." Howie leaned forward. "You know what's crazy, Arvin? You don't just have talent. You have a story that inspires millions. You remind us that no dream is too big." Arvin's eyes welled with tears. Thank you so much," he whispered. Simon looked at him deeply. "What would you do if you won this show?" The boy smiled through tears. "I would buy my mom a real house. A small one, but strong enough that rain doesn't leak inside." The audience melted. A woman sobbed openly in the crowd. Simon took a deep breath. "You know what, Arvin?" he said quietly. "I think you deserve something special." He turned toward the golden buzzer. The audience gasped. Sofia covered her mouth again, already crying. Arvin froze, hands shaking. Simon pressed the golden buzzer. The theater exploded in gold confetti. The lights shimmered, music swelled, and Arvin fell to his knees, crying as the golden rain fell around him. The judges stood and clapped. Sofia walked over, hugging him tightly. "You did it," she whispered. Simon smiled. You just changed your life, Arvin. The host ran onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Arvin from the Philippines, the newest golden buzzer of the season. The crowd roared louder than ever. Backstage, Arvin hugged his mother, who had been watching from behind the curtain. She was crying uncontrollably. I told you, Mama, he said between sobs. One day, you wouldn't have to sell tools again. His mother held his face. No, my son, she whispered. You didn't just sing a song. You sang our life. That night, clips of Arvin's performance flooded the internet. Within hours, millions of people had watched the poor boy who sang his way into the world's heart. Comments poured in. This is why I love AGT. He deserves everything good in life. I haven't cried this hard in years. The next morning, the judges appeared on a talk show. Simon said, that performance reminded me why we do this. It's not just about talent, it's about humanity. That kid has both. In the Philippines, news stations played his video non-stop. Street vendors, schoolchildren, even taxi drivers watched on their phones as Arvin's golden moment replayed over and over. But while fame was rising, Arvin stayed humble. Back in his small town, neighbors decorated the street with banners reading, Our Golden Boy. He still helped his mom at her small market stall. When AGT semifinals came, he returned to the stage wearing the same lucky shoes he had worn during his first audition. Simon noticed and smiled. Still the same shoes, huh? Arvin laughed shyly. Yes, sir. They're lucky. He sang a song about home this time, soft, emotional, and deeply connected to his roots. It wasn't flashy, but it was soul-stirring. The audience lit up the hall with phone lights, swaying gently. When he finished, the judges were speechless again. Sophia said, You remind me that true stars don't need fancy clothes or effects. You just need heart. Simon added, I don't care who else performs tonight, you just gave us something unforgettable again. The semifinals ended with Arvin advancing to the finals. His mother cried backstage, holding a small picture of her late husband. He would be so proud of you, she whispered. The finals came faster than anyone expected. Arvin walked onto the stage, trembling again, but this time with quiet confidence. The world was watching. The lights dimmed. A single spotlight fell on him. He looked into the camera and said, This one is for my father. The music began. It was a song about loss, love, and faith. His voice, raw and unfiltered, carried through every corner of the theater. Even Simon blinked rapidly, trying to hide his emotion. When he hit the final note, the silence that followed was heavy, sacred almost. Then the audience rose again in thunderous applause. Simon wiped his eyes. I have no words, he said. You are the reason I love this show. When the winner was announced, tension filled the air. The host held the envelope, paused dramatically, then shouted, The winner of America's Got Talent is Arvin from the Philippines. The hall erupted. Arvin dropped to his knees again, hands covering his face. His mother ran to the stage, crying as golden confetti rained once more. Simon hugged him. You earned this, Arvin. Never stop singing. The next few weeks changed everything. Talk shows invited him, record labels called, and he performed at international charity events. But what made everyone love him even more was that he never forgot his roots. When asked what he wanted to do first, he said, I want to build a small music school for poor kids who have dreams like me. He did exactly that. A few months later, in his hometown, a modest building with a hand-painted sign read, The Arvin Music House, for Dreamers. Inside, children practiced singing using microphones made from recycled bottles. Arvin taught them himself whenever he was home. Simon visited one day for a documentary shoot. He smiled as he watched the kids sing. You changed lives, Arvin, he said. Arvin replied, Music saved mine first. Years passed, but that golden moment remained one of the most watched AGT performances in history. It wasn't just about talent. It was about hope, a reminder that even a boy selling tools in the streets could touch the world if he dared to dream.